When you get diagnosed with cancer, you get inducted into a club you never asked to be a member of, and it's a lifelong membership. Cancer doesn't go away, it stays with you forever in some way. And for me, I'm 15 years post my surgery, but having had cancer still impacts me, not necessarily negatively, it can be in a really positive way, but I'm aware of it. I was 25 years old, living in London with some mates, just back from travelling the world, so in a really good headspace, sort of, conquer the world type attitude, heavily into my career, really sort of wanting to be that, wear a suit, power walk to work, holding my coffee type perception of what working life was. And things were good, things were positive. I had nothing to complain about, nothing to worry about really, other than can I earn enough money to go out that weekend and living the dream in London as most 25-year-olds are. I was invited to my first smear test, as you are when you hit 25, and didn't think anything of it. My mum was a nurse, so not attending wasn't an option. It was just you hit 25, you go along for your tests. I went, I didn't think anything about it. Yes, it's not the most comfortable 5 minutes of your life, and went back to work really without thinking about it. About 4 weeks later, I got a phone call saying I needed to go through to something called a colposcopy, which is a more detailed examination. Again, I didn't really overthink it. I just thought, okay, I'll go and, I've had this instruction and see what the next thing brings. When you go to that clinic, I was met by a really lovely nurse who was very comforting and reassuring, and this is really common, it's nothing to worry about. You'll be in and out in 10 minutes, just so, I knew what to expect. So I think for me, the first warning sign was when I was still there an hour later. At that point, I got told that they could see something. They didn't know what it was, but they could see a mass of some description, and therefore they were going to take a biopsy. And I left the hospital that day thinking, it's not great that they can see something, but let's see what the biopsy brings. And when I knew things were really wrong was a week later when I got a call asking to go back in, because they're not going to call you and ask you to come in earlier if it's good news. To be honest, it's a day I will never forget. Partly because there was a really good-looking student doctor in the corner of the room, but mostly because it absolutely was the day I got told I had cancer. And yeah, I didn't really know how to deal with it. I didn't get emotional. I didn't really react to it from a personal perspective. I know that might sound odd, but my position was, what does this mean and what happens next? I always approached it with a very practical, what do I have to do and what's going to happen to me, rather than a, how do I feel about this? Drove home with my mum, and the only thing I asked her, and I don't know why I asked her and thought she'd know the answer, but was, will this mean I can't have children? Because I'd always wanted them, and I was 25 and single, so I wasn't thinking about having children, but it was the question that was on my mind, and we didn't know, and the answer was we don't know. Unfortunately for me, this was all happening early December, so pre-Christmas, so there was this pause of, suddenly stopping and going and enjoying Christmas with the family and going and seeing friends and socialising. And I just remember having this really distinct feeling of trying to be normal and happy and enjoy Christmas, but this massive cloud of what on earth is going to happen in January and what is my life going to be like, and it just being a very bizarre thing of trying to live a normal life when I felt anything but normal at that point of time. In mid-January, I had my first round of surgery, which was to see how far it had spread. That was my first sign of good news because it hadn't spread. So finally, I had got some news that was positive rather than always on the negative side. What was the most striking thing, though, about that day was the sentence went, it's good news, it hasn't spread, you're having a hysterectomy. Which, for me, was a reality check of how horrendous is cancer, that the good news is at 25, we're taking out your chance to have children. I was really lucky that I had an amazing support network of friends around me and family who just were real with me and didn't change. And my friends didn't. They did take the mick out of me, and they did laugh with me about it, and they did, find a way to make it funny or inappropriate, or to be direct and ask, like, why aren't you crying more, and why aren't you upset about this? So we could have those real conversations, and I could be myself. I think the one thing that I really learned through the progress was some people need you to support them. Cancer's a thing that doesn't just affect the person going, it really impacts the immediate family around that person. So, my mum was struggling, my close friends I lived with were struggling. So actually, I had a role to play in reassuring them that I was okay and sort of supporting them so that they had people to talk to as well. So a month after being told that I needed the hysterectomy, I was back in hospital for my surgery. It wasn't something I wanted to be going through. It wasn't something I had ever thought I would be facing, but it was going to keep me alive. So I tried to take the emotion out of it and tried to deal with it a step at a time. After a hysterectomy, you're not even allowed to lift a kettle for 6 weeks. So it really is a major operation, and it's about building everything back up and easing yourself back into it, which was something I struggled with. I was a really active person. I've ridden horses my whole life. I wanted just to get back to who I was as quickly as possible. But the reality is, physically, you can't. And actually, the time you need mentally to process what a new normal is really important. And it's the part that I think people supporting you maybe forget. They maybe see they're over it, they're through it, medically they're okay. But actually, mentally, it takes a lot longer to adjust to, I've just been through this, I don't know what the future holds, and I'm trying to go back to normal, but life doesn't feel normal again. And that was a real steep curve for me of adjusting to what a new normal was. I was really lucky with my work and my colleagues. Everyone was very supportive. They were very accommodating of what time off I might need, how long I might need to come back to work. But for me, what was really important was normality. Cancer's a really consuming thing. It takes over your thoughts, it takes over your life. And actually, I wanted something to distract me. I wanted to go to work and do my job, because it wasn't about having cancer and it wasn't about a medical procedure. It was about me at work. So making sure that you're allowing your colleagues to work with you in a normal way. Don't change because they're going through something. Don't change how you are with them is really important. That being said, check in, ask them if they're okay, ask them if they want to talk about it, because a lot of people avoid talking to you. A lot of people go sort of, oh, are you okay? Is everything all right? Actually say, how are you feeling? Or are you getting upset? Or what medical procedures do you have to have next? Like, it's okay to ask those questions if you've got them. And if they don't want to answer, they'll say no. I wanted to talk about the reality. I wanted to talk about what I was going through. So I was happy when people asked to say, yeah, it sucks, or I'm back in hospital next week. So I wanted to normalise it because that was the only way forward for me. So having colleagues that would talk to me, that would be normal with me, was really important. I also had a lot of people that I didn't necessarily deal with day in, day out, reach out to me, and that was really nice. So don't be afraid to reach out. It might be that you don't feel close enough, or I don't feel like I know them well enough to ask. But just sending a note that says, I've heard your news and I'm thinking about you, or, I'm really sorry that you're going through this and I'm here if ever you want to chat. Like, it meant a lot to me. I didn't necessarily take them up on the offer, but it was nice to know that people were talking about you and thinking about you, rather than thinking, oh, we've got to do it in whispers and let's not talk about it, or have you heard? Like, just talk to me about it, I'm a person. So that openness and that sort of coming forward I found really, really helpful, and letting me carry on and do my job and not just be defined by cancer was really important. About 3 weeks, I think it was, after my hysterectomy, I got told that the surgery had been successful, they'd removed all the cancer and that I wouldn't need any further treatment. So this is obviously an amazing moment in anyone's cancer journey, to be told it's worked and you don't need any further treatment. What happens then is a series of checks. So every month I had to go back initially, then 2 months, then it goes to 3 months, then it goes to 6, and it goes to a year. And you absolutely get sort of pre-appointment anxiety. So, you know, the week before or the night before particularly, or drive into the hospital of, is this going to be the appointment where they tell me it's back, or where they tell me we're really sorry we didn't get it all, or where they tell me they can see something new. So dealing with that, and that stays a long time, is something that stays with you, but does get easier over time. The further away you go from that surgery, the more confident you get that actually maybe we're okay. But you also then have this fear of, does that mean I'm going to get another type of cancer? Am I someone who's just prone to this? Yeah, in honesty, I think cancer is probably what will kill me. I don't know why I think that, but it's something I think. It's something I don't dwell on and don't stress about, but mentally it's with me. And it probably always will be. There's a real danger that cancer can define you. There's a real danger that cancer can consume you, even post-surgery, even years later. And actually, it doesn't. It doesn't have to be a purely negative experience. It seems really strange to say it, but my cancer diagnosis is the best thing that ever happened to me. What you achieve in life doesn't define you. How you live your life, how you have relationships in your life, they're what you'll be remembered for, and they're what I imagine when we're all old ladies or sitting in old people's homes. I think it's the relationships and the experiences I look back on, rather than did I work hard enough and did I get where I wanted in my career? And cancer gave me that perspective. It also opened up a whole world of opportunities for me. I got heavily involved in a charity. I got involved in fundraising. My friends got involved in fundraising. We organised charity car washes. We organised a black tie ball. I cycled across India, Africa, Brazil, all for Women versus Cancer. I would never have done any of those things if I hadn't had the diagnosis. For me, it's been overall a really positive influence on my life. And I think processing that is a major part of getting over cancer. Processing it mentally is as big, if not bigger, than dealing with it physically.